Hello, good morning. Welcome back. My name is Raina and welcome to my garden. Let's start in the front yard because there's some really exciting things going on with the garden there. As I'm walking by, you can see sunflowers finally in bloom. I'm really excited about that. Right, so we did do a pollinator garden around the base of one of our trees. I've got some phlox and some butterfly weed, so you can see one little orange flower there. It's a little late in the season when I planted it, so I'm not expecting a ton of flowers this year, but perhaps by next year it'll be doing much better. Most of the blooms have gone. No more daisies. It looks like some of the other flowers have finished up for the season, but luckily we've got some late blooming things like this lovely Joe Pye weed here. We planted this together in my video about native plants, which I can link. And our Baptisia that was taken down by deer is bounced back and it's doing great. I'm really excited about that. Also, redbud tree growing strong. I have noticed these really cool seed pods. And it doesn't feel like there's any seeds in there, but if it's possible that these do produce seeds, I would love to be able to try and propagate this and see if we can get a second tree seedling going. That would be really exciting. Yeah, that would be the front yard. Rain barrel still sitting here, looking cute and blue, but not hooked up yet. Just haven't had the time to really get to it, but I'm hoping this fall this can be a project I can take on. Blueberry bushes are doing great. The echinacea clearly needs to be deadheaded, but that's all right. Look at the awesome blooms on my bee balm. These are just so pretty. Got some more daisies there. I thought these were black-eyed Susans. I planted them before they had flowers. They're fine where they are. They're cute. I might move them next year because I think they are crowding out my blueberry bush that's in the corner. Here, I've got my first pumpkin growing. I swear it just gets like inches bigger every single day. It already feels like it's bigger than it was yesterday. I came out here and I cut up an old t-shirt to hang it, to give it a little bit more support since the vine is growing on a shrub. I didn't want the pumpkin to break and fall before it was done cooking. So it's looking good so far. Still some decent flowers.
Taking you back in time here to when I created the t-shirt ties for my pumpkin. So I had an old t-shirt with some holes in it, and rather than throwing it in the trash, I thought I could make use of this fabric in the garden. I cut a very thick strip about 6 inches from the bottom of the t-shirt all the way around, so it created one big loop, and then I was able to loop that around the fence posts and the bush and underneath the pumpkin to give it some more support. I also was able to utilize other fabric from the t-shirt to make some thinner ties, so this makes a good fabric for doing things like tying your tomatoes to your tomato cages, or I'm also tying my tomato cages to the fence to keep them from falling over. In the future, I might try and invest in some cattle panels or something a little bit more sturdy to hold up larger tomatoes. But this year, tomato cages are what I've got, and I'm able to make it work by reusing some materials.
So, that perhaps that will be the first of many. I believe that is the Cinderella pumpkin that I planted. Goodness. We're going to get to see all of our insect friends. Get another bee here. Thank goodness. It's early in the morning here. I think a lot of the insects are just starting to wake up. They were snoozing in the flowers overnight. So pumpkin's doing great. Nasturtium's still blooming. Got a great bloom on our marigolds over there. Those are the ones we planted in seed when I put the raised beds in. And look at this sunflower. Isn't that just incredible? I'm really excited about all the things in the garden, especially these lovely sunflowers behind me. Sunflower. Oh, they're above my head. But right there, tall sunflowers. Been trying so hard to grow these sunflowers, and unfortunately all of our little critter friends just keep munching them down, but I'm glad a couple of them were able to grow up and flower. So in this bed behind me, I have planted sweet potatoes and black beans. I was trying to do a couple companion planting methods this year, so I planted beans with potatoes for nitrogen fixation, and I am about ready to harvest some of the black beans. As you can see, they're starting to die back there. I'm excited. This is my first year growing sweet potatoes, so so we'll see what that looks like. I'm excited to see if we were able to get a good harvest from the sweet potato slips that we planted. You can see the beans are dried on the vines, so that tells me that they're ready to be picked. Lots and lots of beans. Tomatoes and peppers doing great. Got one pepper down there. I did plant a couple of peas, try and get a fall crop of peas. Some of them look like they might be getting eaten a little bit. Might put some more seeds down later today. We picked a ton of raspberries off of our raspberry bush yesterday, and you can see that it is still going strong. Got all these lovely berries. Tomatoes looking good. Okay, friend, and the most exciting thing of all is the corn growing behind me. This is the first year I've ever tried to grow corn, and it's not been without some issues, but we were able to pick our first ears of corn this week, and so I'm really excited about the progress here. I got several ears of corn, some weeds. We've really not had very many zucchini. I picked maybe 3 or 4. think I'm going to go in here later and do a prune and cut back some of the extra foliage. You see, you've got some powdery mildew on the zucchini. I'm just going to come in and cut back some of the foliage and see if I can help these zucchini out a little bit. Yeah, interesting. So we've got some beans here. Let's see what these look like. All right, let's see if these. Uh-oh, dropped it. All right, these look pretty good. This looks like a black bean you would eat. So I'm going to take these inside and start collecting them to preserve. Stalks are very much still rocking and rolling. Even though we've got this awesome flowering fennel plant, which is so pretty. There's a couple things that we just decided to let go to flower. It's beautiful, and having flowers near your other vegetable crops is good for pollination. So I'll show you in a minute. I'll show you when we get there. So like this basil, since it's flowering, which means that it's not going to be that delicious for eating. Once things like your herbs go to flower, the leaves tend to get more bitter. They're not as tasty, which is why typically I will come in and pluck the heads off of a basil plant. This is purple basil. All right, so I plucked this basil off. Typically, things like basil, when they start to flower, so like this is a basil flower, bees and stuff love this, so we've chosen to leave some of our basil to go to flower to increase pollination for other veggies. But once it flowers, the leaves become a little bit bitter. So typically what I like to do is pluck them right as they're starting to flower, eat these leaves fresh, and then that will encourage right here where you see these two tiny leaves to branch off and create new shoots, and it'll make a bushier plant. So we got our GreenStalks. Onions I'm still leaving until, I don't know, until onions are done. I planted them late, so we'll see what happens. Here is where I harvested the garlic. All of the greens had gone, and so it was just time for them to go. Here's more black beans. We got 2 really big storms this week and a ton of rain, so everything's really wet. So I was waiting for these to dry out a little bit, and then I'm going to probably today pick all the black beans and set them inside to dry so that they can be preserved up. If you are a person who's growing in the small space, or if it's just easier for you to grow in containers, let's say you live in an apartment or something like that, it is totally possible to get a great harvest of things from containers. I wanted to show you, I've got black beans growing here in a grow bag. I've got 2 tomatoes growing in just large planters with other stuff planted underneath them. So I've got pepper plant down here. That's what this is. It's a pepper plant. And on the other side, I don't know. I think that's mostly weeds. But you can grow things like tomatoes, even if you have a small growing space. If you just get some deep containers, and you might want to try and select more of a bush variety of tomato as opposed to like a vining type of tomato. Here's my other GreenStalk where I have planted strawberries. There's a ton of stuff in it now because throughout the year I've just really kind of turned it over and changed what was in it. But this is the vine from the beans. It just kind of jumped over. It jumped out of this pot, crawled up this trellis from the potatoes, and hopped over into the GreenStalk. Plants are funny. They just find places to grow wherever they want. There's still some strawberry plants that are doing really well. I've noticed the ones on this side of my GreenStalk are not as big and healthy as the ones that are over on this side. I think because they're not getting enough sun. So I think that for next year's garden, I'm going to invest in the rotating base for the GreenStalk so that I can turn it and they can get really good sun all the way around. Okay, some pretty cool things going on here. This is my mountain mint, which was one of the native flowers that I bought this year. I planted it in the GreenStalk just because I didn't have another place to plant it at the time that I bought it. And I think it's doing really, really well. I might, at the end of the season, try and divide it up and see if I can make 2 plants and put another bit in the ground somewhere. Mint is a big spreader, so I'll have to choose a spot carefully. Over here, this is just another type of basil that is just wild and wonderful. It smells so good. Every time I walk by it, it just has just a wonderful smell. Yeah, so I think it's worked really well to have like herbs and flowering things at the base of the GreenStalk because it smells nice and it's pretty. It also attracts pollinators, which I think is helping other things in the GreenStalk to grow. So yeah, here you can see strawberries here doing well, but they're not doing as well as, look how big this one is on the other side, and this is the side that gets, yeah, so over on this side, this is the side where the morning sun comes in. I feel like the plants are getting much bigger and healthier. So I think that next year, the rotating base is going to be the move. This cucumber plant is doing really well. Picked a couple cucumbers off of it already that we've done a quick pickle on in the house, and they're super tasty. Yeah, strawberries are looking healthy. Tomato that's vining out. Yeah, so I definitely would recommend if you are trying to grow a tomato in a container like a GreenStalk or some other kind of stackable planter, that you invest in some kind of a trellising system. I'm going to try and figure out today if there's something I can like makeshift create in the house that's going to help hold this up so it can grow up towards the sun a little bit better and not, just fall to the ground. But it's healthy. It's doing great. Clearly it has enough soil and nutrients and it's getting enough water. And yeah, I love how big and bushy this one basil is. I wish I had something else in these pockets down here that could continue to flower and really just fill it out. Okay, last thing I wanted to share was on our back step, we've got our hydroponic. So I started this hydroponic garden early this year in January inside the house in the kitchen, and I had some things do really well there. I brought it outside once it got warm, and right now I've got some cilantro in it, some basil that's doing pretty well. This says chives, but the chive seeds didn't germinate, so I threw some salad mix in there. Kale, which is, more kale than we can even eat. Looking just incredible and awesome. And then some peppers here as well. Yeah, one little pepper. I do feel like I could make use of this space here on the back porch, which is a little bit more shaded, to grow some cold loving crops. This is where I have my seedlings right now for my fall garden. Yeah, so maybe today I will look into getting some lettuce planted here. There's just flowers in it right now. And then I wanted to share, so we've got some flowers. So these are some of the native flowers that I got at a local native plant sale. I've got a wild ginger here, which is a shade-loving plant. So this one, I think, is going to go in our back half of our garden. Black-eyed Susan or brown-eyed Susan, related variety, which is a local native flower here. And so far, I haven't decided where I wanted to plant these flowers yet, so I just decided to pot them up into bigger pots than their nursery pots. They are perennials, so they could potentially stay in these until next spring, and then I can plant them out. I also got milkweed, which doesn't have a flower yet. A sawtooth sunflower, which is a perennial variety of a sunflower. Again, these are just small plants I got from the nursery. I potted them up, so they don't have any flowers yet, but I'm excited to see what they will do. here are our seedlings that we started together. If you didn't see the video where I started my seeds for my fall garden, I will link that. I can put a link on the screen and down in the description box as well. This is my flower tray. Marigolds, you can see, are already really taken off. Some of the other stuff is a bit slower, but has sprouted. So there are some sprouts here in the other flowers as well. And then my seedlings are just doing great. We have had a ton of rain this week, so I'm not entirely sure if they're going to be super happy staying outside. That's why they're under the porch now. I wanted to give them a little bit of protection from the heavy rain and the hot sun during the day. But if we keep having these cooler nights, I might go ahead and plant them out in the next few days.
Alright then, I'm headed back out into the garden to finish my harvesting and maintenance chores for the day. Thanks so much for spending time with me today in the garden. I really appreciate you choosing to spend your time with me. I hope this inspires you to get out and enjoy your garden. You really don't need to have a huge growing space to have a great harvest. You can make an amazing garden in the space that you have with the resources you have now by reusing and repurposing items already in your home. Until next time, let's keep the conversation going in the comments. What are your favorite tips for growing in small spaces? What items do you like to repurpose to save money or time on your garden projects? I will link my gardening playlist and my fall seed starting video in the description for you to watch until my next upload. See you in the next one, friend. Bye!